So this is Earthling 6455463728. And I'm about to commit heresy. I'm about to say something that many people, a lot of my friends, think is absolutely ridiculous. My position is that there is not more corruption in third world countries than there is in first world countries. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, right? I think that, and this is the way that my friend put it, I put it to him that the way that the world is, in terms of the blame for, let's pretend for a moment that there is more corruption in the third world. What him and another friend of mine were saying was that it's because of bad governance. It's bad governance in third world countries that deter people from the first world from going into those countries and investing money. And people are afraid of losing their money because of corrupt individuals, etc. And that's why they don't want to invest in the third world. My position is that that's not the reason why. Third world countries don't have to do anything along the lines of good governance or any of that. To me, BS. Because the way that the position that many third world countries find themselves in is as a result of the first world. If you're a dictator of a country and you can pull money out of your country and put it in a Swiss bank account, that's the fault of the Swiss bankers who know that you're a dictator from your country and they're allowing you to keep money that you've illegitimately gotten from your country in their banks. That's why places like the US can freeze people's money, because they realize, hey, this person has bank accounts, you can find it. Maybe they illegitimately got it from their country, or they got it as a result of what the US says is drugs, and then they freeze the account. So why can't first world countries have things in place so that dictators can't take their money out of the country, not their money, the country's money, and steal it and put it in another location? And furthermore, first world countries are much, much richer than third world countries, right? It's my belief that how can you be more corrupt in a third world country that has less money than a first world country? How can you be more corrupt? That it doesn't seem to make sense. There are fewer dollars in the third world country, but you can be more corrupt than if you're in a first world country, setting up the rules and regulations according to what people who have contributed money to your campaign, i.e. in the first world, you set it up how they want it. When you come out of power, they put you in a nice job with lots of money and benefits because of your connections to the government. And that's, of course, all legal in the first world. But that is less corrupt than a country that has far less money than a first world country. That doesn't make any sense at all. So my friend was telling me that, he would be afraid to take his money and put it into a third world country. And that's what he means by, there's more corruption in these third world countries. He thinks that, first world countries have some blame to account for in allowing and facilitating people to pull money out of their countries. But at the same time, he still thinks that there's more corruption in the third world, and it's because he would be afraid to invest in the third world. And I pointed out to him that there's no country that oil companies are afraid to do business in. There are mining companies, there are agricultural companies that buy agricultural produce, all sorts of things, all sorts of companies do business with third world countries. They buy cocoa, they buy coffee, they buy any number of things, even cobalt that's used, that's absolutely necessary for lithium batteries in Tesla cars and all these and laptops and everywhere else. For some reason, people, these companies and individuals are able to get the things that they need and sell it at 10, 20, 100 times the price that they paid for it, and make a lot of money and become very wealthy. So while my friend is afraid to go to a third world country and do business, a lot of people in the world, a lot of companies in the world, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's the resources from the Democratic Republic of Congo, whether it's from Zimbabwe, whatever they have that someone in the first world wants, they manage to get it, and they don't have any they probably have problems getting it out, but at the same time they do. So obviously it's not that horrible place that you might think that these places are. People make money, and if you can make money, then whatever you think of as corruption, it's obviously not stopping these companies from going there and doing business. Now, there's an idea that if you're in the first world, you're going to deal with people who are on the up and up. They're going to be very straightforward, and nobody is going to cheat you or do something undesirable. Is that really true? I mean, I know myself personally that I've met a lot of disreputable people in the first world. I've met disreputable mechanics. I've met disreputable dentists. I've met across the board. People want to sell you stuff that you don't need, for one thing, that because they get a commission on it. And it's not really too much of their problem if, car salesmen, are they so reputable? The person at the store who wants you to buy as much stuff as possible and will tell you to your face, that looks so good on you. Yes, we have a great return policy. Next thing you know, it's not a great return policy. You can't return it. There are, if you look at so many investigative reports, repairmen, all across the board, people that you have to deal with. I mean, even I had gotten a credit card that was supposed to have 0% interest for a year. And I took that credit card, and I was not going to do anything else with it but put one big purchase on it, or transfer one big balance from another credit card and just leave it. Nothing else on that credit card. As it turned out, I bought something really small, and the next month I realized, wait a minute, I paid a certain amount of money. How come the small item that I bought, how come it's still on my balance? When I called up the credit card people, the lady was really exasperated, because obviously she had gotten many calls like this, except that most of the calls that she would have gotten are much worse than mine. The idea was that in the fine print, the credit card company had said they get to choose which charges come off of your balance first. So that means if you took that big balance from another credit card and you transferred it over to their card, and then you bought a whole bunch of other stuff, and you figured, okay, well, you'll pay off the small stuff and you'll get the 0%. I know it's a little bit confusing. You'll get the 0% credit balance for a year on the small things. You'll just pay off the small things quickly, and as it turned out, it was a scam. Basically, they were gonna collect interest on all those small things that you thought that you could get off quickly. It was kind of a scam, and that was a reputable credit card. I know I didn't really say it as clearly as I could have, but hopefully you guys can figure it out. But the point is, that was the scam. And when I thought about it some more, the whole mortgage crisis was based on corruption. People knew that these people could not pay these delayed interest or these variable interest rate mortgages. They knew everybody was waiting for when the end would crash. Goldman Sachs betted against their own clients. They were selling, these CO, whatever these things were called, and they were betting against them. Isn't that corruption? And when you gather all these things together, that the mortgage crisis was a scam, hospitals can be a scam. And another thing, minorities, African Americans, black people, they know that when they're dealing with the justice system, it's corrupt. Latino people, Hispanic people, they know that when they're dealing with the justice system, it is corrupt. It's stacked against them. Black people represent 13% of the population, general population, but in prison, that's like 37 or 40% of the prison population. Latino people represent about maybe 17% of the general population, but in prison, the cumulative of blacks and Latino people is 70% of the people in prison, even though they only represent 30% of the general population. These people know that in America, the system is corrupt and stacked against them. In Canada, Native American people represent 2% of the population, but 28% of the people in prison. In New Zealand, the Maori people represent, I think, it's 17% of the population again, and 51% of the people in prison. Minorities worldwide, in the first world or whichever world it is that they know that the system is stacked against them. Medical care should be as cheap as whatever, but the system is corrupt because they say, okay, you have to have this high bar of training you need to have, and nobody below that. So you can't have like half a doctor, for something that's really minor. Everybody has to have a Mercedes-Benz level of care. So it means that if you can't afford a Mercedes-Benz, you get nothing. You go to the emergency room in order to get your cancer treatment. Even when it comes to education, the amount of money people have to end up paying in student loans to get an education, while the price of the education keeps going up higher, much, much higher than the rate of inflation. There's education, there's justice, there's the recessions that come and go. There are so many ways that the professionals that you have to deal with on a daily basis. There's so much corruption in the first world that because we're used to it, we just don't see it. But we've read the news, we've never been to any of these places, but we know that they are really, really corrupt over there because I heard them say that. That doesn't make any sense. There's a part in the Bible where they say that you look at the splinter that's in your neighbor's eye and you tell him about the splinter in his eye when you have a log in your own eye. And I think in many instances that's what the first world's problem is. There's a log in the first world's eye, but they can see the splinter in the third world's eye. And in many of these situations, that's what they wanted. They wanted the country to be the way that it is. For example, Cuba used to be under U.S. Influence, a lot of strong influence. The guy that was there, I think it was Batista or something like that, he was democratically elected. Great. After he comes out of power, he goes back into power by becoming a dictator. The US didn't have a problem with that. But then Castro decided to overthrow this dictator And the US had a problem with that. So, the US tried to overthrow Castro and has had an embargo on the island for more than 50 years. It's not working. Nobody's trying anything any different. But we can assume that Cuba's pretty corrupt, right? Even though the US had nothing to do when this guy became a dictator. But when somebody decided to overthrow him who was communist, oh, that is horrible. No, we can't have that. There is a Washington Post article that says the US tried to overthrow or influence covertly 72 instances. I don't know if it's individual countries. 72 times the US tried to change who was in power of a country during the Cold War. How the world is because of how the first world keeps it. I think it is that France intervened in Africa 45 times, I believe it was. Not when there was a genocide going on in Rwanda, not then, but 45 other times they went in there. Anyway, a lot of these things I didn't see for myself until I started to try to prove this stuff to my friends. And for me, it's pretty clear. Even on a small scale, everybody knows that people tip, like let's say in America. Well, in some places, in other countries, you know you have to grease somebody's palm. It's a tip. That's what it is. So that's all that it is. And as long as you know how the system works, you act accordingly. Nobody forces you to tip in America. But everybody knows that you should tip, right? It's the same way. Anyway, some of you guys will not see my point, just like my friends, and some of you all might. So, anyway, you can wish me lucks, whichever way you believe. You can like or unlike, you can comment, share, and or subscribe. Peace.